The start of something new here for the SNHU Sport Management Club. I am Lance Legere, the Sport Management Club president, and we are proud to present you week one of our weekly sports podcast here. We have Kyle, Ben, Joe, Billy. I'm Lance, and we are ready to get this thing rolling, and we're happy to be doing this.
We're going to start and segue us into our first top picks from the past weekend, and I'll hand it off to Lance to present that pick.
So my top moment of the weekend has to be DK Metcalf traveling 22.64 miles per hour to catch up to Budda Baker, who thought he was going to get a pick six on Russell Wilson. Probably the biggest hustle play and probably the play of the season right there. I thought Budda Baker was gone. Metcalf wasn't giving up on it, and he gave the Seahawks a chance all night. Obviously, Cardinals winning an OT, but that's my play of the weekend. DK Metcalf, hustle play of the year.
Yeah, my pick of the weekend has to be G-Man Choi's performance in Game 3 of the World Series Friday night. He obviously was on a tear for Tampa, even though they ended up losing that game. He looked like Spider-Man over there at first base. I'm not going to lie to you. And quite honestly, if the Rays are going to come back and win the World Series, they're going to have to rely on his performance over there at first to bail them out if they make any mistakes.
All right, so I'm going to have to go with the bounce-back effort of Devontae Adams. He had a horrible game against the Bucs. They didn't score but one touchdown. They didn't have a good game. Then he comes back out and he gets 13 receptions, 196 yards and 2 touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers to destroy and win that game.
I'm going to have a bit of bias coming out of week 7 of the NFL season, and as a Giants fan, my top play was the Daniel Jones run, taking off for 80 yards downfield and then tripping 20 yards to the end zone. It was probably one of the most spectacular but disappointing plays that I've ever seen as a Giants fan, but it was just crazy to see him clock that 22.3 yards, putting him 14th all-time speed-wise in the NFL record books.
So this is a moment from last weekend. I'll try to do this quick, but it kind of goes from the future from here. The Jets lost to the Bills again this week, and my hot take is that I think they have potential to go 0-16 on the season. The only other teams to do that are the 2008 Lions and the 2017 Cleveland Browns. So right now they're 0-7. Their points per game, their opponents are averaging 29, and the Jets are averaging 12.1. It is the worst point differential in NFL history. They have 85 total points through 8 weeks. They have the third worst offense between, Billy, I'm sorry to say this, but the New York Giants and the Washington football team. And their schedule following this week are the Chiefs. They play the Patriots twice, the Dolphins twice, Raiders, Seahawks, Rams, and Browns. So the schedule doesn't look good. The only teams I could possibly see them winning, maybe the Patriots, maybe the Dolphins. And finally, just to conclude, I think Adam Gase needs to be let go. I think he needs to be fired. He has 2 years left on his contract, but I think it's time to clean house, and they're going to get ready to bring in Trevor Lawrence next year, hopefully. So that's my take.
That's definitely a good point, but that'll segue us with that NFL little bit, segueing us into our weekly picks. So we're going to start off with Week 8, Thursday Night Football, Atlanta Falcons versus the Carolina Panthers, and I'll let you start us off, Lance.
So this is kind of a toss-up game for me. I think the Falcons have really not had the best of luck this year, obviously choking a lot of games away, a lot of leads, but their offense is just so elite. But I think they're running into a decent Carolina team who's kind of played some of the top-tier teams pretty tough. Obviously, that game with the Saints last weekend can kind of tell you that this team's pretty good. They still have some room to develop. But I think Carolina at home is the easy pick for me here, and I'll take them over Atlanta in Week 8.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Lance on this one. The Panthers at home, I think they're going to be able to, even though there's not really going to be any fans there, I think they're going to be able to use the home field advantage to their benefit this weekend, and I'm going with the Panthers on this one.
So I'm going to be going the other way. Atlanta Falcons, 100%. Matt Ryan not throwing a lot of interceptions, throwing 12 touchdowns already on this season. Todd Gurley already has seven rushing touchdowns. And then you got Calvin Ridley, taking charge and being the number one wide receiver on this team, even over Julio Jones, who hasn't been playing that great this year, in my opinion. But it's all going to come down to defense, whether or not Atlanta's defense can hold the Panthers, which I think is a possibility. The Panthers' offense is kind of on the weaker side compared, especially without McCaffrey. So I'm going to go Atlanta.
All right, Joe, I'm actually going to agree with you on that one. So I feel like the Panthers are coming off a really rough week for them, and Atlanta is not going to come close to the NFC South or even competing in that division right now. But I just think Matt Ryan is playing well, and I think they have just a great offense going into this game, and I have faith that their defense will hold up. They've been very inconsistent. I think they've blown 3 leads. And scoring an accidental touchdown for a win was not very impressive either. But I think that the Falcons offense will come in hot and be a little bit of a close game, but I think the Falcons will come away with it in prime time.
So Carolina playing at home against the Atlanta Chokers. I think I can say this. If we get to the fourth quarter and Atlanta has a 20-point lead, we can guarantee a win for Carolina.
I really like the Atlanta
Chokers. I've ever
Chokers.
seen from Ben.
I know it came.
I've never seen
like
Ben be that
straight
sassy.
heat for game 1 of our picks. Ben just throwing trash at Atlanta.
I'm coming right out of the gate with it.
I like it.
I like it.
Be aggressive.
So matchup 2 is probably all of our game of the weeks. I think the Steelers versus the Ravens. It's gonna be a fun one.
So this is kind of a toss up for me. Me and Ben made kind of a point earlier when we were just chatting before we started recording that the Steelers might be a bit overrated. I think they do have great weapons, and their defense is what really carries them. And if they can contain the run against Lamar, not let him scramble and get out, I don't think Lamar's really had the best year statistically. I think he's always going to be that threat on the field. If you let him get loose, you're really in trouble. But if the Pittsburgh Steelers can contain that, can hold the Ravens at home, I think that's kind of really where it's hard for me to decide. I'm going with the Steelers, but the Ravens at home is just always a tough out, and that's a great rivalry game. Really should be the game of the week, I think. But I'm going to have to go Pittsburgh and their defense. They remain undefeated and go 7-0.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very close game. And quite honestly, I was saying before we started recording this that it's probably going to come down to a field goal at the very end of the game. But I think when you weigh it all together, I think the Steelers are the better team, even if it's an away game for them, which it is this week. So I'm going with the Steelers on this one just because I think they just have more talent compared to Baltimore right now.
I will also be going with the Steelers. Their offense hasn't been, that amazing, but their defense, ever since they got Minka Fitzpatrick, has been pretty much the best defense in the NFL. Once they got him last year, their turnovers just kept piling in, and they got so many more defensive touchdowns and everything, and they're continuing it this year too. And it's showing. They're 6-0. And yes, they're going against Baltimore, but they got TJ Watt over there on defense. He's pretty fast. I think he can, still do his job and at the same time keep up with Lamar Jackson, not let him get too far out of the pocket.
No, this matchup's tough. It's for the AFC North. It's 6-0 team versus 5-1 team, but the Ravens have not been looking like themselves. They've not been playing well. I mean, they're playing great football, but they're not playing the Super Bowl caliber that they did last year. And is that the Madden curse? That can be a debate for a later day. But I think the Steelers are overall a better team. I think this is the game that just is really going to cement them as a top Super Bowl threat. I don't think they'll be a Super Bowl champion this year, but I think they're going to be one of the AFC North, not AFC East. It's going to be AFC North team in the AFC Championship, and it's going to be the Steelers.
Yeah, so just piggybacking off what Lance said first, I personally do believe that Pittsburgh's a little bit overrated in regards to who they've played so far. But I think on paper, Baltimore does look stronger. But hell, I would love Pittsburgh to prove me wrong and show, because I do think this is a statement game for them. And if they can win in Baltimore, I think they should be considered serious contenders for the AFC title.
Yeah,
And
it's definitely.
just one more note before we move on. Didn't even mean to jump in. I totally forgot to say this, but
No, you're good.
it's kind of crazy to think that people are surprised that Pittsburgh is 6-0 because they were kind of the same team last year. I know they had obviously more losses. They were just around 500, but they didn't have Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback. They still had that same defense. I think you throw them into the mix, and we really shouldn't be surprised by the results we are seeing. They are, I guess you could say, overrated because of their schedule they played so far, but that Tennessee wins big.
No, I definitely think that's a good factor because you looked at the Steelers and they made the playoffs, or they were a top contender last. Did they make the playoffs last year, or were they close?
Just missed out.
Just missed out. But that was without Ben Roethlisberger, and I think a lot of people underestimate Ben Roethlisberger all-time quarterback performance-wise, but he's a good quarterback, and I think it definitely is a statement that the Steelers are going to make and say, we're still here. We're not the team that got blown out by the Jaguars. We're not the team that missed playoffs. We're still the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're a top franchise. And talking about statements, you have a potential statement game for Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins against the Los Angeles Rams.
Give me Tua time. I think it's going to be a big debut. I think Brian Flores has to win this game. It was a very bold move going into the bye to bench Fitzpatrick just the way he's been playing. I think Tua has to perform. And this isn't a game where I'm saying Miami's the better team. I think the Rams, on paper, are a great team. They got a great defense, and Jared Goff's having a big bounce back year. But I'm going with the Dolphins at home. Miami's a tough environment sometimes, and they need to win. So I'm going Tua time and the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I think Miami's going to get some momentum this weekend from the quarterback change, but I'm actually going to go the other way, and I'm going to say the Rams, even though they're going to get that momentum from Tua being in the game and getting the start this weekend. But I really think the Rams have more talent, and quite honestly, I think they're just going to steamroll Miami either way. So I'm going with the Rams on this one.
One name, and his name is Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald. He's going to blow Miami's offensive line away, and he's just going to be into his face the entire game. Tua is not going to be able to handle it very well, in my opinion. And the Rams are just they're going to take over that game, and they're going to win it. So I'll go Rams.
And then, Lance, I know you made this point earlier, but I'm going to just kind of steal it from you. That Miami put Tua in for a reason and benched Fitzpatrick for a reason. And I think that Tua has that confidence. You saw how passionate he is about the game of football, sitting in the middle of the field after his first game, quote-unquote, when he was subbed in last week or a couple weeks ago. And he just sat in the middle field, take it all in. He's a passionate player. He's a great player, and he would have been a potential top 5 quarterback pick without the injury, and he was one of the best quarterbacks in collegiate football. So I think that he's going to have a fantastic game, and I think they're going to beat the Rams.
So kind of similar to Joe's position, you have Tua, a young, promising star, going up against arguably one of the best defensive tackles of all time in Aaron Donald, which I think should be a very interesting matchup. And that's why I'm taking Los Angeles. I think watching the last nights against Chicago, not that it says much, but it was a pretty impressive win. I think they continue into this week as well.
Yeah, it'll be a really fun game, I think. It's just watching Tua debut. I hope he doesn't get embarrassed for his sake, but I think it'll be a fun game. Los Angeles has a chance to continue to prove themselves because I feel like a lot of people are taking Los Angeles for granted, but Miami's definitely in a position to maybe take a wild card spot if they start performing a lot better. So maybe this is the change they needed. But here's game 4, if we even need to talk about our picks. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the New York Jets.
I'm going to keep this one brief. Chiefs got it.
Yeah, I've got a couple of Jets fans who might be watching this, and I know I'm going to get some grief from this, but I'm sorry, guys, but I think the Chiefs are going to absolutely destroy the Jets this weekend. I'm sorry.
There's no grief ever for picking against the Jets. You shouldn't receive a word. So
I mean, I'm friends with some Jets fans. That's why I'm saying.
I'm sorry for your sake, and I'm sorry for their sake that they're Jets fans.
Obviously, I'm gonna go Chiefs. You can't really not. People are giving the Jets a 6% chance of even winning this game, and then you got Patrick Mahomes. He's not having a stellar year, but he's not having a bad year at all by any means. He's only thrown one interception. And their team is the same team that won the Super Bowl last year. So, gotta go Chiefs all the way.
I'll also keep this brief, but I got some little fun predictions for you. I have the Chiefs by 40, minimal. I have Patrick Mahomes out in the third quarter, not for injury, but them just taking him out because they don't want to risk injury. And the Chiefs are gonna win. I don't think if the Chiefs lose against the Jets, they don't have a shot at a Super Bowl. I'm sorry.
And it's Le'Veon's debut, so this is a very big game as well.
Exactly.
If he plays.
Le'Veon will throw up 200 yards against the Jets, and that'll be game.
I believe he is playing. So you throw in that incentive too. I mean, I don't think it's a close contest either way, but that'll be a fun debut.
It'll be a fun match. Definitely fun to watch for a high scoring game.
So I believe after completely demolishing the integrity of the New York Jets organization, it would be hypocritical of me to pick the New York Jets in this matchup, which is why I think I have to choose. It's tough for me, but I have to choose the Kansas City Chiefs, and I have to roll with Mahomes and the crew.
Ben, I love the sass coming out of you today.
I love this side of Ben. This is awesome.
Never seen it, but I love
great.
it. I love it. Here's a fun one. Joe, your favorite match of the week. Not your top match, but I see that Green Bay Packers logo in the backdrop. So Green Bay Packers versus Minnesota Vikings.
I think Green Bay's offense is just too good. I really don't care what defense they play, minus that Tampa Bay game. I think Tampa Bay is rolling, but Aaron Rodgers has been at a different level this year. Obviously, drafting Jordan Love has got a huge chip on his shoulder. They're clicking. Devontae Adams had a great weekend, so I think Green Bay's got this one against a Vikings team that really last year, obviously, that win against the Saints in the playoffs was huge, and Kirk Cousins just hasn't been that guy. Inconsistency has been pretty much the whole story with him since he's arrived in Minnesota. 1-5 is no surprise. They got some good receivers that maybe shopped at the deadline, but I think Green Bay's got this one at home.
Yeah, everything seems to be clicking right now for Green Bay, and quite honestly, I think Minnesota right now, they have a lot of questions right now with how they want to move forward, and I think Kirk Cousins has to be one of the conversations they have at the end of the year, whether or not they want to keep moving forward with him. And quite honestly, I think he may not. This may be his last year in Minnesota. I don't know, but I'm going with Green Bay with this game.
So we already know who I'm going with. I'm going to put the cheese head on for this one just because.
Good rep.
Cheese head, good rep. Devontae Adams, I'm going to make a bold prediction. He's going to go off again, just like last weekend. First week they played, literally first game of the season, they played Minnesota, and he had 14 receptions for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to do it again. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to do his thing, throw 4 touchdowns, 300-plus yards, and they're going to dominate. They beat them 43-34 in week 1. I think it's going to be similar. The Vikings haven't done anything good since that game besides one win, and I don't even know who they beat. I think it was a bad team anyways. Let's see. Who did they beat? They beat the Texans. Yep, they beat the Texans. So not that huge there. So
Texans with or without Bill O'Brien?
With.
Yeah. No, that's terrible.
Yeah. So Green Bay all the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna join the pack here and say Green Bay. I am not a fan of Kirk Cousins. I never have. I think he's been overrated from the start. I think those past 2 years that he's had the veil of being a good quarterback, he's had a good system behind him. But he's starting to show off like his Washington side. He's not playing good because you're starting to take some offensive linemen away from him. You're starting to take some key offensive players and Stephon Diggs away from him. Vikings defense is still a top 10 defense just point-wise, but they're still just not – they're not holding the bad teams and the good teams to not score like a limit on scoring. So Green Bay's an easy pick for me.
And one more thing, not to cut anyone off, but they also traded away Yannick Ngakoue. So like
That's
he wasn't
point.
doing that great for the defense, but that's a huge thing to trade away one of their top players mid-season. It kind of shows that they're kind of giving up at this point. So
in order to avoid Joe yelling at me, and unless Anthony Barr tries to murder Aaron Rodgers, I gotta go with the Packers at Lambeau this week.
Yeah, I think the only way Minnesota has a shot at Green Bay is if you can hurt the morale of Aaron Rodgers like Tampa Bay did. And that's by like a quick pick off the get-go. Joe, I'm sorry. But that's like their 10% chance of winning. You either injure Aaron Rodgers, which I would never want to see.
It was only his third career pick six against
exactly.
Tampa, so
but
like,
you would just need one of those like morale-hurting plays in a divisional game to even compete and put up an argument. But Green Bay's that's a unanimous pick for all of us. And this is an interesting matchup coming up. It's fun. You got two teams that are very quiet. They're not making a huge impact, but they're playing mildly well. They're not bad teams at all, and it's the Indianapolis Colts and the Detroit Lions. So, Lance, what's your take on this?
Indianapolis is just always that team in the AFC South that obviously they had Andrew Luck, a great system quarterback. They now have Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett last year. They always seem to be playing good football, and they're always that team that can get that upset or lose to a team that it's kind of like a head scratcher. And I think they're going to lose to that team that I guess is kind of a head scratcher in the Detroit Lions. Obviously, kind of a crazy win in Atlanta. Who hasn't gotten a crazy win in Atlanta this year? Matt Stafford getting a touchdown late and then obviously kicking the extra point to do it. I think that win maybe gives them a little bit of momentum. I want the Lions to succeed just because I think Matthew Stafford's a great quarterback and he doesn't get credit because they don't win games. I think they have a decent team around him, and I think they get it done at home against Indianapolis.
Yeah, personally for me, I'm going Indianapolis with this game. For me, I think it comes down to Phillip Rivers. I think a change of scenery this year has been very beneficial for him. He's been with the Chargers for I don't know how long. It seems like 13, 14 years. I don't know. But, I mean, I think going to Indianapolis this year has really helped him, and their record shows. So I'm going Indianapolis on this one.
So before like 10 minutes ago, I was saying Indianapolis as well, just because Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin born. I don't know if he was born in Wisconsin, but Wisconsin player, destroyed in college, and now he's doing amazing on the Colts. Phillip Rivers, he's not doing that great, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but he's still doing better than what he was doing with the Chargers. But now that Detroit just traded for Everson Griffin, I'm gonna have to give it to Detroit just because that's a huge bolster to their defense. They already have a pretty decent defense, and now they're adding Everson Griffin, who's a huge pass rushing D end. I think he's gonna be able to stop Jonathan Taylor a lot easier than the people they had, and then he's gonna be getting in the face of Phillip Rivers, and I'm gonna have to give it to Detroit, sadly.
Sadly, I love it. No, I'm also going Detroit. I just think the Colts aren't all that. They're looking good, but they're playing in not the best division with the Texans, the Jaguars, and the Titans are just triumphing through the NFL this season. But Detroit's just got a lot of young talent and a lot of key things clicking at just the right time, and I think we're going to see more of that click as the season progresses. But I think this is Detroit's time to maybe slowly inch their way and make a statement and try and take a early punch at a wild card slot.
Yeah, so for me, I think this is going to be one of those grinded out games. Goes right down to the end of the fourth quarter. But Detroit's coming off a huge win last week against the Atlanta Falcons. So I think I have the Lions at home this week.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun matchup. It's an interesting one. This is another interesting one though. It doesn't on paper it looks kind of one-sided. You have the Cleveland Browns coming in 5-2, and you have the Oakland Raiders coming in at 3-3 to start off the week.
I'm sure it's fair to say that Oakland's probably the best 3-3 team in football. I mean, that Kansas City win was great. They have some good pieces. You never know what you're going to get out of Derek Carr and that team. Obviously, Josh Jacobs in the back is really big for them. But I actually think, and it's crazy to say, that Baker Mayfield is going to be a little less stressed out to try and force feed Odell Beckham Jr. I think he's felt that ever since Odell's arrived in Cleveland, because Odell's supposed to put up numbers. Odell's an amazing wide receiver, probably one of the best in the league, but I just don't think him and Baker have clicked. Obviously, very unfortunate injury. I'd never wish that upon someone. I was actually pretty upset when he got hurt because I thought Cleveland was finally starting to find a rhythm with him in the offense. But I think Odell kind of hurt Baker Mayfield just because I think Baker always has in the back of his mind, I got to find him somehow. And a lot of plays are drawn up for him. So I'm actually going to take Cleveland here at home. I think they're rolling right now. I think that Cincinnati win was really good and Baker really locked in, and he's the guy now. If they lose, it's not on Odell Beckham Jr. not performing and him not getting him the ball. It's Baker Mayfield just not playing good football. So he's got to make a statement. And I think it starts with Oakland this weekend without Odell, unfortunately.
Yeah, obviously a very big loss for Cleveland there with OBJ's injury. But I think, honestly, with him in the game, I probably would pick Cleveland. But now that this has happened and they lost him for the season, I think that's going to be a big minus for them. And I'm actually going to go the other way, and I'm going to choose the Raiders on this one just because of that.
I think this is going to be a close one. I don't think it's going to come down to a blowout. I think it's going to come down to whoever gets the ball last in the fourth quarter. It's going to be one of those games. And I say that just because, yeah, they don't have Odell. And I think that's honestly going to hurt them more than it's going to help them. Like, yeah, Baker won't be trying to throw it deep to Odell every play, but like Jarvis Landry doesn't have a single touchdown on this season right now. Odell was kind of like controlling that stat. And then the Raiders beat the Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champs. Yeah, they lost to the Bucs last week, and that was a hard one. But I think they're going to bounce back, and they kind of just have to prove themselves right now, especially after that hard loss. So I'm gonna go Oakland.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow suit and go Oakland. I just think they're not a 3-3 team. They've had some really tough competition, and the Browns have played the Bengals twice. And give the Bengals some credit. They're playing really great offensively, but their defense is not up to standard for an NFL team, to say the least. But I just think Oakland's just a good team. They're a winning team, and they'll come out with the win against Cleveland. Baker Mayfield will have a pick or two just from a weird drop catch or even him just throwing a bad ball, but it's just Oakland will take this game.
Yep. So another good game for a week 8. I think the Odell injury definitely hurts them a lot, as the Raiders defense will probably want to concentrate on locking up Jarvis Landry because he's the 2 wide out. But I think overall it comes down to two things: whether Baker Mayfield's concentrated on football or whether he's filming another Progressive commercial. I think the Raiders will end up winning.
I'm going to.
Hulu has live sports now.
Hulu does have live sports. I think that's the next Madden curse because Saquon and Baker Mayfield both advertise for that, and they're not doing good. But, Ben, I'm going to throw up a meter, and it's going to be like the Ben Sass meter or something up the top right, and it's just going to ding every time you make one of those fantastic It's great. It's great.
Yeah, where were these when we rehearsed? Like, are you
Yeah.
just saving them off from when we
I have to
rehearsed?
save them
Like,
because then they're
I
not as
know they're
special
good.
when
They're
I
not as
rehearse
special.
them.
Being
These are
aggressive.
hilarious. Like,
They're great.
I am.
I'm just gonna point something else out too. I noticed this, and I don't think anyone else noticed this. You all called the Raiders Oakland when they're actually in Las Vegas.
Ooh,
Oh!
you are correct, Kyle. No more Oakland.
They're Oakland.
Jeez, that's like weird to get used
There's
to.
no
you
fans
got
in
me
Las
on that.
Vegas.
Oakland in my heart. Oakland in my heart.
They're Oakland fans. The
Don't
Oakland
worry,
fans
don't
changed
worry,
it.
guys. I've been making that same mistake. I still find the urge to call them Oakland, even though they have moved to Las Vegas.
They should have just
now.
built that stadium in Oakland, but yeah. Here's a fun matchup. A year ago, 2 years ago, you would have looked at this and been like, this is a joke. But they're two teams with a lot of young talent, and one of them's performing great. You have Tennessee versus Cincinnati.
I think Tennessee's just proven everyone this year that AFC Championship run was no fluke. Derrick Henry is a bulldozer back there, and Ryan Tannehill is the perfect game manager for that Oakland. Jeez, we're talking about Oakland still. Tennessee offense. Kyle's got me like stuck on that in my head. I can't believe I did that, but no, I think Tennessee's just too good. I would love to see Joe Burrow get like a signature win at home. I think he's just playing great football and easily the best rookie quarterback along Justin Herbert. That's just going to be a tight race to the end of the season. But I think Tennessee just gets it done. Too dominant on both sides of the field.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Joe Burrow leading LSU to their national championship last year against Clemson. Great national championship game, but he is a rookie quarterback and he still has a lot to learn. And I think this is going to be a game for him that's going to be a teacher for him down the road, and he's going to learn a lot of lessons from this one. But I do think Tennessee's going to win this game. I think their talent against Cincinnati right now is just too great.
I'm going with the upset. Joe Burrow's going to prove that he can lead this team. He's been doing all right, in my opinion. He hasn't been, some outstanding quarterback right now, but like you can't really expect him to with the injuries that have happened to this team, and they're lacking in offensive linemen, and then it doesn't help that two of their offensive linemen are on the injury report, and Joe Mixon. So. But I still think that if Joe Mixon plays, Burrow's just going to come out there and he's just going to sling the ball downfield, give the ball to Mixon. They're going to come out and it's going to be a close one. So I'm going with the Bengals.
Yeah, I think I agree to that point. I think if Joe Mixon shows up, he'll have a mildly decent game. Then you'll see Joe Burrow, he'll have like a 200-yard game. And maybe get pressured a lot by Tennessee, but there's another player that's going to have a 200-yard game, and that's Derrick Henry. And it's the Titans by far. Cincinnati doesn't have a defense. Derrick Henry's going to have a career game, tear up the entire backfield, and it's easy career game for Derrick Henry and the Titans.
Well, when looking at Derrick Henry, in the words of the great Kevin Harlan, he has no regard for human life, as we've seen with Earl Thomas in the divisional game last year and with Josh Norman recently. So I think I have Tennessee in a big game this week.
And can I see your notes? Like, are you just writing this down? Like, have you had these for like a couple days? Like, boom.
I'm actually getting fed information right now.
He's got a reader behind his computer screen right now. He's working with Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless.
He's got a prompt in front of him, so he's ready to go. I love it.
He's ready. Here's one of my favorites that I'm gonna look forward to watch. Patriots Bills. And I know we'll have a lot of Patriots fans watching this game. So, Lance, what's your take on this?
So, yes, I am in that Patriots fan field. Obviously, watching that San Francisco game was not fun. Not a good performance. I think this team was different 2 weeks ago. Obviously, the COVID hitting really messed up the mojo this team was on. Really great game with Seattle that went down to the wire. Arguably, Seattle's one of the best teams of football. Cam Newton doesn't look the same. This Patriots offense and defense does not look the same. This game really determines whether the Patriots become buyers or sellers at the deadline. If you drop this one, your season's pretty much done at 2-5. But if you can get to 3-4, you got life. You got Belichick on your side, and you're going to roll with it. I'm not saying that the Patriots are the better team. I think Josh Allen's had a MVP type year. Obviously, adding Stephon Diggs has been really big, and Cole Beasley's been a great receiver for them as well. Patriots need this one. I'm going to take this one on the road in Buffalo. It's kind of the big brother, little brother game. Can the little brother Bills get over the Patriots as the big brother? They haven't been able to do it in years past. They might be able to. I think they can. I'm pretty sure they can with the talent they have, but Patriots got to win this one, and I'm going to take them.
It absolutely hurts me to say this as a Patriots fan, but the Patriots are in trouble right now. Obviously, they had a 2-1 start to the season. Should have been 3-0. Obviously, it came down to that very last play in Seattle, and then half the team got sick with COVID, and basically ever since they played Kansas City, they have not looked the same as they did for the first 3 weeks of the year. And quite honestly, there's a lot of questions right now, and I think some of them might get answered this weekend, but unfortunately, I'm going with Buffalo on this one because they just have not looked the same ever since they played Denver.
All right, so I'm going Buffalo. They're by far the better team. They were the better team last year, in my opinion. They didn't necessarily do great against New England when they played, but I still think that they were the better. Then they added Stephon Diggs, and he's been